Hi everyone, welcome to Distilled Living with Zoa, where we talk about personal transformation with practical insights so we can level up. Let's jump in. Today we're starting a new series entitled Mindset Shifts. This is one of the most important subjects I've been exploring in greater detail over the past couple of months. It actually intrigued me because it helped to explain why I kept getting stuck. I knew I had heaps of potential. I knew I was capable of doing so much more, but for some reason, I kept getting stuck. I couldn't move from point A to point B. And I started to feel very frustrated. I started to feel a lot of becoming more and more discontent with my life. And I kind of call it frustrated potential. So I started exploring this whole idea around mindset shifts. And it was an area that it was like the light bulb went off in my mind. And I got really excited about it because it was like that missing puzzle that I needed, the missing piece that I needed to bridge the gap between where I was and where I actually wanted to be. So let's explore this in more detail. And it is my hope that you will be able to see some of the mindsets that have perhaps limited your potential and begin to actually deal with them so you can actually progress in your life. So before we begin, let's set the foundation in terms of defining what a mindset is. I know some people view mindset as a set of beliefs, a set of the way that you perceive things. But according to the American Psychological Association, they have a definition that I found very interesting. They state, a mindset is a state of mind that influences how people think about and then enact their goal-directed activities in ways that may systematically promote or interfere with optimum functioning. In other words, it's your state of mind concerning how you think about your goals and then how you then enact activities that help you achieve those goals. And depending on your state of mind, you can either have a mindset that allows you to achieve those goals, or actually it can interfere with those goals or interfere with optimum functioning. I think the phrase that stuck with me was when they said that it systematically promotes or interferes with optimal functioning. It struck a chord with me because that's how I felt, where certain mindsets that I had were actually interfering with optimal functioning for me. I wasn't achieving my goals. And it's not because I didn't have the know-how. I certainly had the know-how. I had the capability. I had the tools. I had systems in place. But there was just something that kept putting brakes on me and stopping me from functioning at my optimum, so to speak, until I discovered mindset shifts. So what I decided to do was to make a list, and basically I looked at a specific goal. And the first goal that I had was I wanted to start a podcast. And it was a goal that I had for the last 3-4 years. I had the tools, I had the know-how, I knew what I wanted to talk about, but for some reason, I struggled to make that leap to actually be able to create a podcast and even sustain it. So I looked at where I was, right? And my point A, I called it my point A. And I had started a podcast, but I'd only shot about 7 episodes and I quit. And I didn't know how to move forward anymore. And I left it for, a good 5 months or 6 months. And then I looked at my point B, where I wanted to be. And I basically wanted to start a podcast that allow people or help people with personal transformation, because I'm so passionate about change. And I knew that was the target of where I wanted to be. But now that gap between where I wanted to be and where I was, how could I bridge that gap? And I began to explore the notion around mindsets. So I made a list of some of the mindsets that I had that were blocking me from getting to the other side. And it was actually quite interesting when you start to see some of those mindsets that you had. So the first one that I listed was, I don't have what it takes. I don't have what it takes. So I looked at that and I said, okay, let's spin that for a moment and let's have a mindset shift. How else could we phrase this? And then I started saying, I have enough to start and I know enough to start. I have enough to start and I know enough to start. And that's the difference between being stuck and starting to gain some sort of momentum in your life. It's just reframing your mindset from one that is, that sees a block to one that sees possibility. And then the next one that I noticed, another negative mindset that was stopping me from doing this was, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? So I decided to shift that mindset to, let's find a way to make it work. Let's find a way to make it work. And that began to shift me into the realm of possibility versus putting a brake on my potential, because I've already concluded that, what's the point? It's never going to work anyway. Because that mindset keeps you stuck. That mindset keeps you confined. And then another negative mindset that I was struggling with was, it looks hard. It looks impossible. You look at people who've been doing it for years and they have millions of listeners and they're interviewing amazing people. And it just looks like, oh my gosh, it's like a Mount Everest and it just looks impossible. So I turned that mindset and I started saying, it has been done and it can be done. It has been done and it can be done. And that began to literally disempower the other mindset that was keeping me kind of locked up. And it started shifting my mind once again towards action, knowing that I could do it. And then the other one that I was struggling with was, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So when that mindset set in, I began to shift it with another mindset, which said, take one small and imperfect step today. Repeat tomorrow and the day after. Take one small and imperfect step today. Repeat tomorrow and the day after. And that was probably one of the most liberating things, because I no longer pursued, perfection. It was just like giving myself permission to take an imperfect step, just one small step, and just keep going. And the last mindset that I struggled with, was, I don't know where to start. And then I would change that mindset to, I'll learn as I go. I'll learn as I go. Those are simple changes, allowing myself to think differently, unlocked possibility for myself. And I started again. I started recording, and I started seeing that I could do this. No matter how long it took, I could actually do this. Then I realized that it wasn't just me. I was not the only person who struggled with mindset. So the more I looked into it, the more I began to discover things that I found very interesting. So today I want to share with you just the first thing that really struck a chord with me. And it was this phrase that I heard. It said, the gap between potential and performance is mindset. The gap between potential and performance is mindset. Think about that for a moment. Let that sink in. A lot of times we have, goals that we want to achieve, and we struggle to actually perform and achieve those goals. But we never stop to think about, how are we thinking? What are our beliefs? What are our belief systems? Because those belief systems can undermine, every form of activity that you might be doing in order to achieve your goals. For example, I remember trying to, get fit again and lose weight. And then I noticed I had this little belief system that was playing that kept saying, I'm too far gone. I'm too far gone. And no matter how much I was trying to work towards losing weight, that I'm too far gone was like an operating system that was undermining all the other things that I was trying to do. So because of that, I wasn't able to achieve the goals that I was trying to aim at. It wasn't until I started to undo that belief system, that mindset, so I could actually give myself permission to, pursue the goals freely without hindrance. And I want to ask you today, are there any mindsets that are hindering you from actually performing at your best? Are there any mindsets that are interfering with your optimal functioning? It could be things that you have experienced that have shaped the way you see things and the way you approach things, good or bad. Sometimes you have to stop to examine these things. Think about how you think about certain things. A lot of times we're just in autopilot and we just don't pay attention to how we think about certain things. But it's important to take a step back when you perhaps haven't been achieving the goals that you want, or you're seeing that there's a massive gap between your potential and your performance. Have a look at your mindsets to see how you can actually change those mindsets and adopt new mindsets. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Is it worth it? Absolutely. It is worth it. It is worth it because you need to give yourself a chance. You need to give yourself a chance. I want to give you an analogy. Picture this. Imagine you're an athlete and you're about to run the 100-meter race. And then you've got your whole outfit, you got the correct shoes, but your shoelaces are tied together. So the left shoelace is tied to the right shoelace. You're capable. You have the stamina. You've been practicing. You have the muscle. You have everything to win this race. But then your shoelaces are tied together. The gun goes off and you proceed to want to take off, but you trip. You trip over yourself and the rest of your peers are just making a mad dash to the finish line. But here you are, struggling because your shoelaces are tied together. I know it's a simple analogy, but I hope you can see how mindsets can actually be that hindrance. The wrong mindsets can be that hindrance that can stop you from functioning at your optimum. And it takes you to pause, undo those shoelaces that are tied together and tie them separately and try again. And you've got to do that for yourself. You may have a twisted way of thinking about certain things, about who you are, and it's worth you undoing all of that and rethinking or reshaping the way you see things so you can give yourself a chance. Reframe the way you see things. Now you might ask yourself, how do I do that? Now, how do I do that? I'm glad you asked. Read new material. Listen to new voices. listen to new ideas, explore new ways of thinking that challenge what you've always known, so that you can then begin to incorporate that and have an elevated way of seeing things that can actually help you and give yourself a fighting chance. We're so accustomed to spending most of our time listening to things that are so familiar with us, things that validate our current point of view, things that validate our biases, instead of challenging ourselves to hear things and learn things that actually question, so we can explore new ways of thinking. And it is in exploring new ways of thinking or honing in on truth that can actually set us free to be able to function at our optimum. It is worth the time to look at your mindsets and see how they have played a role in your life to date and how you can shift those mindsets. It's possible, so that you can begin to function at your peak. You can function at your best. It's a simple idea. Mindset shifts is a simple idea. It is hard to execute, but it is worth every ounce of effort to reprogram your mind with a new way of thinking, to change your state of mind so that it can influence how you approach your goals and how you can achieve them. In conclusion, just a reminder that if your mindset is the limiting factor towards achieving your goals, it doesn't matter what activities, what tools you have, what capabilities you have, what potential you have, you're going to be very limited. That's why it's worth shifting your mindset to a higher level, so that all the tools, the skills, and the capabilities that you have can actually come together. It actually gets into sync, so you can actually realize your potential. So I'm going to leave that with you this week. Think about this and start exploring how you can make those mindset shifts. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Hope this has helped you to make those shifts towards transforming your own life. See you next week.